Scientists warn that one of the most dangerous glaciers in Antarctica, the Thwaites Glacier, nicknamed the Doomsday Glacier, could collapse within the next 200 years. If it does, the resulting rise in sea levels would be catastrophic, flooding coastal cities around the world. With the potential to raise sea levels by over 3 meters, this ticking time bomb of ice holds the fate of millions of people in its grip. Today, we're taking a closer look into the science behind the glacier's impending collapse and what this could mean for the planet. What is the Thwaites Glacier? The Thwaites Glacier is located in West Antarctica, where it stretches over 120 kilometers across, making it one of the largest glaciers in the world. Its size and location have earned it considerable attention from scientists who are particularly concerned about the rate at which it is losing ice. This immense ice formation, often referred to as the Doomsday Glacier, is significant because it acts like a plug, holding back even larger ice sheets. If Thwaites were to collapse, it could trigger the disintegration of surrounding glaciers, unleashing a much larger volume of ice into the ocean. What makes Thwaites so important is not just its size, but its vulnerability. The glacier has been thinning rapidly, contributing about 4% of global sea level rise already. It's currently responsible for the loss of 50 billion tons of ice each year, a staggering number that continues to grow. Unlike some other ice masses, Thwaites is in a precarious position because its ice shelf, an extension of the glacier that floats on the water, has been breaking apart. This breakup has weakened the glacier's ability to hold back the ice from further inland, pushing the entire system toward potential collapse. The Thwaites Glacier plays a pivotal role in the global climate system. While other glaciers are retreating, scientists believe Thwaites could be the first to experience a full collapse due to its exposure to warm ocean currents and the rapid rate of ice melt. Its instability makes it a focal point in climate research, as it could be the key to understanding how fast and how severely sea levels will rise in the coming centuries. The science behind the glacier's potential collapse. The potential collapse of Thwaites Glacier is rooted in the complex interactions between the glacier, the ocean, and the land beneath it. Like many glaciers, Thwaites is constantly moving, with ice flowing from the interior of Antarctica toward the sea. What makes Thwaites particularly vulnerable is the presence of an ice shelf, a floating extension of the glacier that acts like a buttress, holding back the massive volume of ice on land. Unfortunately, this ice shelf has been weakening over time, mainly due to warm ocean currents that are melting it from below. As the ice shelf deteriorates, the glacier loses its support, increasing the speed at which it flows into the ocean. A critical factor in this process is the glacier's grounding line, the point where the glacier meets the sea and begins to float. As the ice melts and the grounding line retreats, the glacier becomes even more unstable. This retreat exposes more of the glacier's base to warm water, accelerating the melt from beneath. Thwaites is particularly susceptible because it rests on a bed that slopes downward toward the interior of Antarctica. As the grounding line moves inland, it exposes more ice to the ocean, creating a self-reinforcing cycle of melting and retreat. This is why scientists are so concerned about Thwaites. It has the potential to enter a runaway feedback loop where the more it melts, the faster it collapses. Climate models predict that if the grounding line continues to retreat, the entire glacier could become unmoored from the land within the next few centuries. The loss of the ice shelf would be the tipping point, allowing the glacier to slide more rapidly into the ocean. Scientists use a range of tools, including satellites, ice-penetrating radar, and under-ice robots, to monitor these changes. They have observed rapid thinning and retreat in recent years, suggesting that the glacier may already be approaching a critical threshold. While the exact timing is uncertain, the science points to a future where Thwaites could collapse much sooner than originally predicted, with devastating consequences for global sea levels. Timeline. When will the collapse happen? Predicting exactly when the Thwaites Glacier will collapse is a challenge for scientists, as the timeline depends on a variety of complex and shifting factors. Current estimates suggest that the collapse could occur within the next 200 years, but there is a growing concern that this process might happen sooner. Thwaites is not behaving in a linear or predictable way. Some areas are retreating and thinning much faster than anticipated, making it difficult to calculate an exact time frame. What is clear, however, is that the glacier is already undergoing significant changes that could accelerate the process. Several factors contribute to this uncertainty. One of the most significant is the warming of the ocean currents that flow beneath the glacier. These currents are eroding the glacier's base, particularly at the grounding line where the glacier meets the sea. As this grounding line retreats further inland, the glacier's structural integrity weakens, making a full collapse more likely. The speed at which this occurs depends on the rate of ocean warming and how quickly ice sheets upstream of Thwaites respond to the loss of support from the glacier. The collapse could be a slow process that takes centuries, or it could unfold much more rapidly over the course of just a few decades. Additionally, scientists face challenges in predicting how the glacier will behave because much of the activity occurs deep below the surface, hidden from direct observation. While advanced tools like satellites and underwater robots provide valuable data, there are still many unknowns about how quickly the glacier's grounding line will retreat and how the surrounding ice will respond. What is becoming increasingly clear is that the collapse of Thwaites is not a distant event far into the future. It is a real possibility within the lifetime of the next few generations. Whether it happens in 50 or 200 years, the consequences will be felt worldwide. Global impact. What happens if Thwaites Glacier collapses? The collapse of the Thwaites Glacier would be a catastrophe with far-reaching consequences across the globe. If the glacier disintegrates, scientists predict that sea levels could rise by as much as 2 to 3 meters, inundating coastal cities and communities around the world. This would be particularly devastating for low-lying countries and cities such as Bangladesh, the Netherlands, New York, and Miami, where even a small rise in sea level could lead to widespread flooding. Entire regions could become uninhabitable, displacing millions of people and causing a global refugee crisis. The economic implications would be staggering, with the cost of repairing or abandoning flooded cities reaching into the trillions of dollars. The collapse of Thwaites would also have profound effects on global weather patterns. As the ice melts, it could disrupt ocean currents, particularly the Atlantic Meridional Overturning Circulation, AMOC, which plays a critical role in regulating the Earth's climate. A slowdown or collapse of this system could lead to more extreme weather events, such as stronger hurricanes, prolonged droughts, and severe winter storms in parts of the Northern Hemisphere. These changes would not only affect the climate, but also agriculture, as shifts in rainfall and temperature patterns could threaten food production worldwide, creating further instability. Beyond the immediate rise in sea levels, the loss of Thwaites could trigger a chain reaction across the entire West Antarctic ice sheet. Thwaites acts as a barrier, holding back other glaciers that are currently stable but could begin to flow into the ocean more rapidly once Thwaites is gone. This would further accelerate global sea level rise, adding to the initial impact. Even inland areas would not be immune, as the ripple effects of disrupted global supply chains, resource shortages, and forced migration would be felt across continents. The collapse of Thwaites Glacier would mark the beginning of a new era of environmental challenges, and the world would need to adapt to a rapidly changing planet. The role of climate change. Climate change plays a central role in the destabilization of the Thwaites Glacier. The warming of the planet, driven primarily by human activities such as the burning of fossil fuels and deforestation, is causing temperatures to rise both in the atmosphere and in the oceans. This warming is particularly pronounced in the polar regions, where it is happening at a rate much faster than the global average. For Thwaites, the warmer ocean waters are a direct threat as they melt the glacier from underneath. The heat carried by these waters weakens the ice shelf that holds the glacier in place, allowing it to flow more quickly toward the sea. This process is not just isolated to Thwaites, but is part of a broader pattern of ice loss across Antarctica and Greenland, both of which are contributing to rising sea levels. Another key factor is the feedback loops that intensify the effects of climate change. As the glacier melts and retreats, it exposes more of its surface area to the warming ocean, which accelerates further melting. This creates a self-reinforcing cycle that makes it increasingly difficult to stop the process once it has begun. Furthermore, as the glacier and the surrounding ice sheets melt, they contribute to the loss of reflective surfaces that normally help to bounce sunlight back into space. With less ice, the darker ocean absorbs more heat, leading to additional warming and ice melt, a phenomenon known as the albedo effect. This creates a feedback loop that exacerbates global warming and accelerates the disintegration of polar ice. The role of climate change in the future of Thwaites is undeniable, and the glacier's fate serves as a stark reminder of the global consequences of unchecked carbon emissions. The more the planet warms, the greater the risk that Thwaites will collapse sooner rather than later. While local weather patterns and ocean currents play a part, it is the overall rise in global temperatures that is setting the stage for this potentially catastrophic event. Without significant efforts to curb emissions and slow the rate of climate change, the collapse of Thwaites Glacier could become an inevitable consequence of our changing planet. As for preventing the glacier's collapse, the options are limited. While some have proposed geoengineering solutions, such as artificially cooling the oceans or constructing barriers to slow the glacier's flow, these ideas remain largely theoretical and controversial. The real focus for now is on mitigating the broader causes of climate change through reducing carbon emissions and transitioning to renewable energy sources. These efforts, while global in scope, are seen as the most realistic way to slow the melting of glaciers, like Thwaites, and prevent catastrophic sea level rise. Whether these measures will be enough to change the glacier's fate remains uncertain, but the ongoing research is providing vital insights into what the future may hold. Now it's time to hear from you. Do you think it's too late to prevent this catastrophe? Let us know in the comments section below.